Why do we as Christians evangelize?
Why do we evangelize? That's another one of those questions that I think is critical to not move past, to make sure you get right. I think ultimately the reason that we evangelize is to glorify God. It's for the sake of his name. It's for God's glory. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 15, Paul tells the Corinthians that all things are for your sakes, so that the grace which is spreading to more and more people may cause a giving of thanks to abound to the glory of God. You know, earlier in that chapter, Paul talks about how he's willing to die for Christ, and since he's willing to die, he's willing to keep speaking for Christ. And then that verse 15, that gives us the ultimate reason to be opening our mouths for Christ. It's so that the grace which is spreading to more and more people may cause the giving of thanks to abound to the glory of God. That's why Paul sacrificed his life. You know, that's why he took the gospel to the Gentiles. It was so that thanks would abound to the glory of God. You know, it was ultimately the glory of God that motivated him. And again, that's so important, because if you miss that high purpose, say you had something less as a mission, as a purpose, say it was more man-centered, say the salvation of man was your ultimate goal. You know, I think it could be very easy to start to adjust your methods to achieve that goal. You know, we want to see people get in this church. I want to hear professions of faith. I want as many members as we can in this building. You know, it might take a little while to making statements like that, but I think if you have God as your goal and you keep focused on that, that's going to help to keep your mission and your method and your message biblical when it comes to evangelism. So I would say, you know, why do we evangelize? You have to start there. You know, it really has to ultimately be for the glory of God. So it's not about satisfying the felt needs of people, or it's not about pragmatism. It's not about, you know, personal agendas. You know, it is obedience. You know, that's a good reason. It is, I think love is a good motivation. You know, we should desire to see the lost come to faith. So love and obedience, good motivations, but ultimately that highest goal has got to be the glory of God. So, you know, when you're driven by that desire to honor God, to magnify his name, when you let that doctrine, that truth impact your thinking, it's going to drive your ministry. And it's going to determine your philosophy of ministry then. It's going to dictate your practice, you know, the decisions you make, how you actually do outreach. It's going to be controlled then by that ultimate goal of glorifying God. So I think you've got to start there. I think that's the highest reason.
Yeah, I appreciate that, where you start. I've heard you also say, when you've taught on this, we are commanded and compelled. And that's a helpful way to remember it, of what you said, commanded, and we do it out of love. We're commanded, you know, Matthew 28, 19 and 20, and we're compelled because we don't want to see people perish for eternity. So we tell them the gospel so they can become saved.